Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So today I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys today because recently I've been doing some best hidden gem videos on every single platform, and today we're on Dreamcast hidden gems. And honestly, even though we're wading into the deep end of the hidden gem library for Dreamcast, I'm starting a little bit more at the surface level with games that you definitely would want to play, and if this video does well, I'll start trotting out some of those really deep cut games that I'd love to talk about. But right off the top, we're playing Napple, and this is the English translation that came out a few years ago. For all of the amazing 3D platformers on Dreamcast, Napple is one of those games that just never gets the credit it deserves, and that's probably because for the longest time before the translation, the text in this game was very dense and there was a lot of text you needed to actually progress in the game. So even though you could kind of poke around in it and understand what it was trying to do, you really wouldn't have a great time playing it because you couldn't understand Japanese. Now obviously in recent history that has changed, but I feel like not a lot of people have actually come around and played the game since then. And when I say this game has a weird sense of charm, a weird sense of just being absolutely fun, I 100% mean it. It's one of those games that is completely unique in the Dreamcast library, even if it's in a genre that a lot of other games hit as well, being the 3D platformer. And even though it has nothing to do with it whatsoever, I always kind of felt like an unofficial sequel to the Pandemonium franchise, just because it is a 3D platformer, but sometimes it feels more like a 2.5D platformer. But this is one of those games, if you like Dreamcast era 3D platformers, you 100% have to play it. Kind of feels like a mix of Alice in Wonderland with its own complete unique story at the same time in all the best ways possible. The controls are concise, the game is absolutely amazing to look at with some really charming visuals, and overall it just has a ton of engrossing story as well. And because now there is an English translation for it, that story is going to make 100% more sense than it ever did when you try to play it in Japanese. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, have you ever heard of or played Napple? I would be curious because I always love to hear who knows what games are out there and what they've experienced before, because Napple, if someone asked me what's the one game on Dreamcast I probably haven't played that I should check out, would probably be my answer 50% of the time, and the other 50% of the time the next game on this hidden gems list would be what I recommend. But honestly, Napple is just such a charming special game. The platforming is unique, it's definitely easy to play, and all of the visuals just have that Dreamcast era charm that I absolutely love, and I'm sure a lot of you do as well. And it does have kind of a light RPG element as well, with an open town where you meet different characters, because Mayor Frogcar right here is half frog, half car. He's the mayor of the town and kind of looks like he's dressed up as a desaturated Uncle Sam in all of the most hilarious ways possible. When I say Napple is a vibe and you're never quite sure what it's going to show to you next, I just absolutely mean that. You're always going to be charmed, you're always going to be surprised, you're always going to be amused by what levels and what characters you encounter. The game is just absolutely oozing personality, both in the visuals and the story, as well as the soundtrack. And that's obviously my way to segue into the first soundtrack sample of this video, so go ahead and listen to Napple for 45 seconds. The music's amazing, and I'll be right back with my other favorite game to recommend to people. So I absolutely know everything is subjective, but I would say Napple has the best music of any Dreamcast game and any hidden gem list that I could possibly produce. But now moving on to my other favorite game that I love to recommend to people, and the answer what my favorite hidden gem on Dreamcast is the other 50% of the time. This is L.O.L, or Lack of Love. This game is just absolutely one of the most beautiful and endearing games that was made of this era, and it kind of fulfills that game's art quantifier where you're wondering, are you playing interactive art or are you playing a video game? Now, Lack of Love is just an evolution simulator. You have different stages of your own evolution, and you need to play through each level, completing a set of goals so that you can evolve to the next life form to get to the end of the game. And even though this game has never been translated before, it doesn't have any text in it whatsoever outside of the menu. That doesn't matter. So you'll be able to play this game from start to finish, from when you come out of the primordial ooze all the way to the point in time that you basically evolve past apes, and all you need to do is pay attention to the visual language and audio audio in the game to understand what you need to do. This game from start to finish could take maybe less than 3 hours, but it's one of the most intriguing 3-hour play sessions you can have on something like Dreamcast. From the graphics, even though they're simple, to being absolutely incredible at the same time, to the music and soundscape of all the creatures, just how well this game is designed and basically leads you along the way just by visual signposting. This is a special game and in a lot of ways kind of feels a little bit like a precursor to something like Pikmin. If you've ever played this one before, definitely tell me down below because I would be curious about your thoughts. But even though this game I would consider to be one of the best games on Dreamcast ever made, still doesn't really get mentioned that much. So I'm going to give you an air quote soundtrack sample of it, even though it's mostly soundscape. Listen, and I'll be right back with a lot more footage of it though. Now, Lack of Love does have music within the game in and of itself, but so much of the game is just going to be played with your creature's sound effects and the other noises of the areas that you're traversing in the game, kind of feeling almost like a nature documentary, except nature that you've never actually seen before. And the entire goal is you need to figure out 3 different tasks in each area until you can move on to the next. And you're going to do that by basically solving puzzles and then evolving into a larger life form. So every time you evolve, you're basically going to pull the camera out and you're going to see more of the game world around you. And that, again, is such an interesting and fun design decision and gameplay aesthetic. As you'll see here, basically everything has been solved. You'll see those 3 rotating orbs in the top right hand corner of the screen. That means that the 3 win conditions for this area have been satisfied, and then you're going to basically be able to move on. If you're wondering, yes, you have a P button in the game. You can P on different things, and that is going to be very important to actually solve some of the puzzles. And the best part is the hints that the game's going to give you. If you press start, you're basically going to see the hint. It's going to be visual, so you don't have to have any Japanese language experience again to be able to get to the end of this game. But there's just something about Lack of Love. It is such a quiet, meditative game, one that really doesn't have a ton of gameplay in it. You just kind of move around, try to stay alive and try to evolve. But once you actually get into this game and get a little bit enamored with what it's doing, you are going to fall in love with it. At least I think so. And you'll see here, we've now evolved to a new life form. The camera has pulled out and we get to explore more of the world. And trust me, the ending of this game gets very dramatic and very weird very quickly. Let's move on to the next game in this list. This is Seven Mansions, and it was a Japanese exclusive survival horror game that recently got translated as well. Now this one is a little bit janky, but it's that delicious flavor of jank on Dreamcast that you absolutely love from the other survival horror games out there that are great but not as good as Resident Evil or something like Carrier. This game is just absolutely weird from start to finish. It's got some great character design, some great story going on, and a ton of really good / bad voice acting at the same time. But it definitely is a vibe. Kind of feels a little bit like L.O.L without all of the weirdness going on, and it is a game that I never hear anyone mention when they talk about Dreamcast survival horror games, and I totally get it is B tier, but B tier can always be as fun, if not more fun, than some of the best A tier games in that genre on a platform, just because the developers definitely experiment and play around with the structure and formula of the survival horror genre, kind of crafting their own thing that looks both familiar and foreign at the same time. And that's why I love games like this. They kind of change up your expectations and play around with them a bit to give you something that you feel like is familiar but also foreign at the same time. And I definitely love a lot of the creature design in this game as well. Definitely has a lot of flair and a lot of vibe to it. When we're going to the next soundtrack sample, go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds, but come back because I still have more games to show you and more to talk about on this one. It's kind of funny how that music there just feels like the ultimate horror hype, but beginning in that first area, you have that industrial machinery humming in the background that kind of feels like some sort of haunted factory, and I love the enemies there, kind of look like a cross between a zombie and a monkey at the same time. And that's not the only soundtrack sample I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you another piece of music in just a moment, plus some of the voice acting, because trust me, when you hear the voices, you're absolutely going to love them for all the wrong ways. But this game just absolutely gives you something that no other survival horror game on Dreamcast does, in my opinion. If I could compare it to one game, maybe I'd compare it to D2, not in story, but kind of the overall gameplay aesthetic outside of those locked off first person modes that kind of feel like a point and click adventure game. But Seven Mansions is just one of those titles, every single time I read about the best Dreamcast games of all time, or even the best survival horror games, or even lists of survival horror games you can play, I never see this one on any list, and that bums me out. But one more taste of the music quickly, and then the voice acting, because trust me, it is the absolute gold standard of weird.
So you're searching for Ernest? My name is Morris. Don't worry, I'm on your side. Sadly, I don't know where Ernest is. Schneider should know, but be careful. Schneider is a terrifying man. If he catches you, he'll use you for human experiments.
I mean, yeah, there's just some of the voice acting in Seven Mansions, and trust me, it doesn't get any better from there, but it definitely gets a lot better from there because it is so weird, you have to love it. Now moving over to a racing game that I feel like most people have heard of, this is Speed Devils, and this is what I'm calling Kilter's Corner because Kilter Music helps me with these captures, and this is one of his favorite games to play that he doesn't feel like gets mentioned much on Dreamcast because there's so many incredible racing games on the platform, and honestly, Speed Devils is one of those games that's also ran in people's imaginations, but it has a ton of fun with it. But you leave me a comment down below and you tell me what's your favorite Dreamcast racing game that really isn't going to hit that upper echelon, because when everyone thinks about Dreamcast racing, they think about the Daytonas, they think about Rush 2049, titles like that, but there was a ton of games on the Dreamcast for racing, and honestly, Speed Devils is one that definitely deserves a lot more attention. Kind of almost has like a country vibe going on, not only in the soundtrack, but in some of the cars as well, being those retro cars from like the 50s and 60s. But Speed Devils is a game definitely 100% worth checking out, and one that I never hear anyone mention. We're going to do one last soundtrack sample before I talk about the rest of the game and close out the video, so go ahead and enjoy, and I'll be right back with a bit more. I mean, it's fun music, maybe a tiny bit generic, but it definitely works in the context of what the game is offering here, and I would say the split-screen multiplayer support is absolutely outstanding as well, being able to get two-player races in, because Dreamcast really had that extra horsepower that some other systems like N64 lacked back in the day, where sometimes when you play split-screen, you'd end up at an even lower frame rate than the actual single-player experience. But Speed Devils is one of those games that's got a really fun vibe going on. Every single track is completely different, and in some ways it kind of feels like an unofficial California Speed port to Nintendo 64, just because both of them have movie backlots you can race through. But do tell me down below again if you've ever played this one, I would be curious. But that is the shallow end of the deep end of Dreamcast hidden gems, but trust me, if this video does well, the next one probably going to be games that you've never heard of or seen before. But short of that, we are done. The Dreamcast is still amazing in 2025, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.